The Chinese are losing faith in China after failure to contain corona. Hello everyone, this is Mr. Obvious, and today on the New York Times. So, I don't know why I'm doing this story. YouTube has recently started suppressing news about coronavirus, corona in general, and essentially demonetizing it, suppressing it, because apparently you're not allowed to talk about things that only the media can, right? Because the media, they're gods, and they tell you what to think, they tell you what to do, and they tell you what to believe. But a guy like me, who points out evidence and patterns, well, that's just how it is, right? But no matter, this is important news, so I'm going to talk about it. Coronavirus crisis shows China's governance failure. Now, this is from the NY Times. Okay, it's from a left-wing source. So even left-wingers think that China is absolutely incompetent, and that's what I've been saying. China is run by the Communist Party of China, the CCP, China's Communist Party. It is a corrupt, dystopian dictatorship where nobody has equal rights, nobody has rights, no one has freedom of speech, information is controlled, and there's just a lot of absolute mismanagement. You see in this clip, do you see this supporting pillar and how it's crumbling like dust? This pillar is supporting a Chinese building, and look how easily it crumbles. This is Chinese engineering. People cut corners in China. It's the nature of communism. Cut corners, corruption, greed, everything for a profit. This is not going to last. Like, this building will collapse. It is actually insane. As the Communist Party cements control, more officials worry about pleasing their bosses than taking care of people. And here you have a picture of, I suppose, China and their hierarchy. What do you expect? But honestly, what do you expect? In a communist nation, in a communist country, this is the kind of thing that goes on. There's no accountability. People aren't elected. They don't represent anybody. They just represent the party. The people are really of no concern. And that is why problems like this get out of hand. We already know that whistleblowers who were warning of a coronavirus outbreak a month and weeks before there was an outbreak getting so bad, China arrested whistleblowers, they suppressed whistleblowers, they lied, and I think they're still lying. There's so much evidence. Now, this story is by Li Huan, and he says, Wuhan's mayor blamed higher-ups. A senior disease control official blamed layers of bureaucracy. A top government expert blamed the public. The people, he said, simply didn't understand what he told them. It's the classic blame game, and that's the way it works in communist China. Nobody is accountable for anything. But really, everyone is probably at fault, and the government is certainly at fault for being negligent. This also is due to a lack of health standards and probably security standards, considering we don't really know where the virus came from, if you catch my drift. As China grapples with the mysterious coronavirus outbreak that's killed at least 490 people and sickened thousands, the country's 1.4 billion people are asking what went wrong. Well, maybe it was the overpopulation or the communism or the exotic meats, but I'm sure it was just America's fault. America bad. And that's the amazing thing. Like, I've heard reports that the CCP, the Communist Party of China, is blaming America and saying, America made the virus, believe us. And what's sad is a lot of these people probably believe them, but a lot of them might also not believe them. I think that Chinese people are finally starting to wake up to the Chinese government's incompetence. And if so, it could be the beginning of a paradigm shift of public consciousness in China. Now, the censorship is heavy, the information control is heavy, but maybe, just maybe, people might actually wake up. And who knows? Who knows what the future of China holds? You know, historically, China has gone through periods of nationalism and open borders, and a rich elite who live on the coasts, and a poor everyone else. And it's historically gone through many revolutions. Who's to say that China won't have a revolution sometime in the future? Maybe it might not be in 100 years, but maybe this is all just the beginning. Who's to say? So many officials have denied responsibility that some online users joke that they are watching a passing the buck competition. It's tossing the wok in Chinese. Now, as an American, I actually have no idea what passing the buck means. I assume it has something to do with wildlife. Tossing the wok, I can understand. Maybe it means like hot potato. Like the wok is hot, I'm not sure. The Chinese people are getting a rare glimpse of how China's giant, opaque, bureaucratic system works. You mean communism? Or rather, how it fails to work. You mean communism? Too many of its officials become political parachiks, fearful of making decisions that anger their superiors, and too removed and haughty when dealing with the public to admit mistakes and learn from them. You mean like in communism? Under the high-pressure environment of anti-corruption campaign. Anti-corruption? Are you kidding me? It's under the pressure of communism. So when they talk about anti-corruption in China, what they're really talking about is people who go against communism and the party line. So really, the party's already corrupt. The anti-corruption is getting rid of good people or people who simply, aren't following whatever rules the elite set, the Communist Party sets. Most people, including senior government officials, only care about self-preservation. You mean like communism? They don't want to be the first to speak up. They wait for their superiors to make decisions and are only accountable to their superiors instead of the people. You mean like communism? I think they get the message, guy. Yes, like communism. These are all problems with communism. The Chinese government appears to be aware of the problem. The Communist Party's top leadership acknowledged in a meeting on Monday that the epidemic was a major test of China's system and capacity for governance. I'm really glad that there's actually some self-awareness here, but I'm actually shocked that they're even admitting even a little bit of fault. I'm also shocked that this bridge and these bridges don't collapse. I know exactly what standards China has for engineering, so it's honestly frightening. I would be terrified to live in China. You never know when the next building is going to collapse, when the next material is going to come falling down. So this is footage from inside Wuhan. As you can see, it's practically a ghost town. Will this be enough to stop the spread of the virus? Yeah, that remains to be seen. So growing numbers of people are questioning the government's decisions as the virus spread. Wuhan and around the country withheld. Okay, so officials in Wuhan and around the country withheld critical information. We know this. We've already heard about whistleblowers being arrested who try to warn them. There is an outbreak here. We need to stop it before it becomes a pandemic. And they ignored it because that's the way communism works. The New York Times showed that by not issuing earlier warnings, the Chinese government they certainly lost a window to keep the disease from becoming an epidemic. The outbreak has undermined the myth that the Chinese political elites win assignments and promotion purely on merit. Yeah, they absolutely do not. It's communism. It's all political. You just elect whoever is good for the party, which is usually not good for the people. That's what happens in a corrupt dictatorship. It is not a free country. But I find it amazing that this person, they still gotta try to pump up China. China has sold this system as its own unique innovation. Developing countries have sent thousands of their government officials to China to learn its model of governance. A political system that offers security and growth in return to submission to authoritarian rule. This is all wrong, and this is why China's falling apart. All that wonderful, innovative system is why China is falling apart. People in China are finally now questioning that premise. They are focusing much of their anger on Xi Jinping, China's top leader and the person to blame for creating a culture of fear and subservience within the Chinese government. Now, few people dare to question Mr. Xi openly for fear of provoking censors or the police. But after Mr. Xi disappeared from public in recent days, some social media users began asking, euphemistically, where is that person? So it's clear that the Chinese people are finally waking up. But that's the problem with the blame game. It's not just Mr. Xi, it's the entire communist system that has taken over China. Those officials could often be corrupt, but even the party's fiercest critics sometimes acknowledge that they got things done. Li Zhijun, the former railway minister, is serving a lifetime sentence for taking bribes and abusing power. He also oversaw the creation of China's high-speed rail system, which vastly improved life in the country. Okay, that's hilarious. Yeah, it sounds more like this guy, who is a corrupt member of the party, who's full of a party that's corrupt, simply outlived his usefulness. So this is how they do it in China. Chinese officials are spending as much as 1/3 of their time on political studying sessions a lot of which are about Mr. Xi's speeches. Political loyalty weighs much more in performance evaluations than before. Now the rule of thumb in Chinese officialdom seems to be demonstrating loyalty as explicitly as possible, keeping everything else vague and evading responsibility at all costs when things go wrong. And you wonder how the Wuhan virus got out of control. Corona-chan didn't take over the world for nothing. It is pure incompetence. The Chinese people may be paying the price. Yeah, I think they're always paying the price. I've seen so many videos of the reality of life in China, and I've seen shills say, I've seen especially probably Chinese shills saying, China isn't some sort of dystopia where everything's falling apart and crazy crap happens because nothing is built right. It's just because the country has more cameras. Obviously, you're going to see more accidents and, oh my God, the things I've seen. No, that's not the case. It has to do with the cut corners in China, the rampant corruption. Nothing is built to standard. Everything is crumbling. So here's a quick little timeline because I'm going to wrap this up. Zhu Zhangwang, Wuhan's mayor, he didn't disclose the epidemic earlier because he wanted authorization from a higher up. But he could have told people to wash their hands, stop gatherings, wear face masks. He didn't. When the information started leaking, it was vague and misleading. Officials were treating pneumonia patients, but it didn't say how many. We know that corona causes pneumonia. Most likely the coronavirus. Again, no one did anything. The National Health Commission, which could have declared an epidemic emergency, didn't even issue its own notice until January 19th. But by then it was too late. And then everyone started to play the blame game. Oh my God. Okay, so here's an example of China's insanity. So, a video that went viral across China showed a couple stuck on a bridge connecting Guizhou province to the city of Chongqing. Chongqing. I'm really trying to say these words here. I don't know Chinese. Okay, I'm trying my best. The two governments had halted travel between them, and the couple, she from Guizhou, he from Chongqing, had no place to go. If I just read that correctly, in other words, it means that the government, on both sides, officials, had shut down travel through the bridge. The couple was on the bridge, and they literally had nowhere to go. They were stuck on the bridge because the officials said no more travel outside or through or anything of this bridge. What is that? Only in China. Okay, so after the epidemic, the Chinese leadership will have to punish a few officials, even severely, to save face and win back some credibility. But for people who are suffering from the epidemic and the failure of governance, the Communist Party may have a hard time winning them back. I know before long, this country will go back to being a peaceful, prosperous society. We will hear many people screaming about how proud they are of its prosperity and power. A Wuhan resident wrote on the social media site Weibo, but after what I have witnessed, I refuse to watch the applause and commendation. And that's probably the most you can ask anybody in China, to no longer believe the communist lie. You see, communism is a lie. It has never worked. It has always failed. And the Wuhan virus is just, the coronavirus is just another example of the failure of communism. But that's merely the obvious. Well, that's all for now, folks. What do you think about this story? What do you think about the Wuhan, what do you think about the coronavirus? Do you think that this could have been stopped? Do you think there's any chance that the people in China will finally get tired of the Communist Party? Be sure to let me know. Now, as always, if you want to support the content, you can join me on Patreon or Subscribestar for as low as $1. Doing so will give you access to Fight Club, a private Discord server. You can also donate via Bitcoin, and if you come and join Subscribestar, you can actually give me contributions as one potential way to donate. Sharing the video is also appreciated. I really hope more people open their eyes and they see just what kind of place China really is, and that communism just doesn't work. There's a lot of socialists out there who think, real communism, real socialism has never been tried. No, it's been tried, and time again, it fails. As always, thanks for watching. This has been Mr. Obvious, and I'll see you all next time.